In a small, quiet neighborhood surrounded by trees and tidy houses, Marcus lived alone in a modest home at the far corner of the street. Marcus was a simple man, humble, polite, and hardworking. His days were spent in his small workshop crafting furniture. He made sturdy tables, beautiful chairs, and anything his customers requested. People loved his work, but his neighbors didn't seem to like him. It wasn't that Marcus was unkind or unfriendly. In fact, he always smiled and waved when he saw anyone passing by. If someone's fence was broken, he offered to fix it. When snow blanketed the streets, he shoveled driveways without being asked. But no matter what he did, his neighbors didn't want to know him. They avoided him, whispered about him, and never invited him to their gatherings. The reason was something Marcus couldn't control: the color of his skin. In a neighborhood where most people looked the same, Marcus was different, and some couldn't see beyond that. But Marcus never let their coldness change who he was. He believed that kindness had the power to change hearts, even if it took time. One warm Saturday afternoon, as the sun bathed the neighborhood in golden light, Marcus was working in his garden. He loved gardening almost as much as woodworking. It helped him feel peaceful, even when the world around him didn't. Suddenly, a loud cry broke the quiet. "Lily! Lily, where are you?" Marcus looked up and saw Sarah Martin, his next-door neighbor, running down the street. Her face was pale, and her voice trembled with panic. Her husband, Tom, was close behind, shouting their daughter's name. Marcus dropped his gardening tools and walked over. "Is everything okay?" he asked, concern in his voice. "It's Lily," Sarah said, her voice breaking. "She's missing." Without hesitation, Marcus said, "I'll help you look." The neighborhood quickly came alive with activity. Neighbors spilled out of their homes, joining the frantic search for 5-year-old Lily. The Martins were well-liked, and Lily was a sweet, cheerful child who often played with other kids on the street. Marcus searched every corner of the area. He checked behind bushes, in backyards, and near the park at the end of the street. As the minutes turned into hours, the mood grew more desperate. By evening, whispers began to ripple through the crowd. "What if she wandered off too far?" one neighbor said. "What if someone took her?" another added. The thought chilled everyone. Marcus, though exhausted, refused to stop searching. "I'll check the old warehouse near the edge of town," he told Tom. "It's not far, and sometimes kids go there out of curiosity." Tom hesitated. He didn't trust Marcus, though he didn't say it out loud. But in that moment, he was too desperate to argue. "Fine," he said. "Just let us know if you find anything." The warehouse was a dark, abandoned building that everyone in the neighborhood avoided. It had broken windows, creaky doors, and a history of being a place where troublemakers hung out. Parents always told their kids to stay away, but Marcus knew how curiosity worked. If Lily had wandered there, she might be in trouble. As he approached the warehouse, the evening air felt heavy. The silence was unsettling, broken only by the sound of crickets chirping. Marcus pushed open the rusted door and stepped inside. The air was musty, and the light from his phone barely illuminated a large, empty space. He called out, "Lily, are you here?" For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, faintly, he heard it, a soft, muffled cry. Marcus's heart raced. He moved quickly but quietly, following the sound. The cries grew louder, leading him to a shadowy corner of the warehouse. His eyes widened when he saw her. Lily, her face tear-streaked and scared, sitting on the floor. But she wasn't alone. A man loomed over her, his back to Marcus. He looked rough, with unkempt hair and a menacing stance. Marcus immediately realized this wasn't a random situation. This man had taken Lily. For a moment, Marcus froze. His mind raced with questions. What should I do? Will he hurt her if I move too fast? But then, determination took over. He couldn't let anything happen to Lily. "Hey!" Marcus's voice was firm, cutting through the silence like a blade. The man turned, startled. his eyes narrowing as he sized Marcus up. The man holding Lily didn't move at first. His sharp eyes darted between Marcus and the child, calculating his next move. Marcus could feel the tension in the air, thick and dangerous. "Let her go," Marcus said firmly, his voice steady. The man sneered. "This isn't your business," he growled. "It is now," Marcus replied, stepping closer. "You don't want this to get worse." The kidnapper tightened his grip on Lily's arm, making her whimper in fear. Marcus's heart pounded, but he forced himself to stay calm. He knew he had to act quickly, but carefully. Marcus scanned the room, searching for something he could use. His eyes landed on a long wooden beam leaning against the wall. Slowly, he inched closer to it, keeping the man distracted by talking. "Listen," Marcus said, "you don't want to hurt her. Just let her go, and we can talk about this. No one has to get hurt." The man's grip loosened slightly as he hesitated. That was all Marcus needed. Grabbing the beam, he swung it hard, knocking the kidnapper off balance. The man stumbled, letting go of Lily, who immediately ran to Marcus, tears streaming down her face. Marcus picked her up and held her close. "You're safe now," he whispered, his voice soft but reassuring. The kidnapper, regaining his footing, lunged at Marcus. But Marcus was ready. Using the beam, he defended himself, forcing the man to retreat. Finally, hearing sirens in the distance, likely from a neighbor who had called for help, the man turned and ran out of the warehouse, disappearing into the night. Marcus didn't chase him. His priority was Lily, holding her tightly. He carried her out of the warehouse and back to the neighborhood. The blame game. When Marcus arrived, the entire neighborhood was gathered in the Martins' front yard. The moment they saw him carrying Lily, a wave of relief swept through the crowd. But that relief quickly turned into suspicion. "What were you doing with her?" one neighbor shouted. "I found her in the warehouse," Marcus explained, keeping his voice calm. "That's convenient," another muttered. "How did you know where to look?" Sarah and Tom, Lily's parents, stepped forward. Tom's face was a mixture of confusion and anger. "Why were you there in the first place?" he asked, his tone accusatory. Marcus was stunned. After everything he had done to save Lily, they were blaming him? Before he could respond, Sarah added, Did you take her there?" Her voice trembled, but her question stung. Marcus felt his chest tighten. The whispers around him grew louder, feeding on their prejudices. It was clear they were ready to believe the worst about him. Then, a small voice broke through the noise. "No!" Lily cried, clinging to Marcus. "He saved me." The crowd fell silent. "What did you say, sweetheart?" Sarah asked, kneeling beside her daughter. "The bad man took me," Lily said, her voice shaking. "He was scary, but Marcus came and saved me. He fought the bad man and brought me back." Her words were clear and undeniable. The neighbors looked at Marcus, their faces shifting from suspicion to shame. Tom stepped forward, his expression softening. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "We should have trusted you." Sarah added, "Thank you for saving our daughter. I don't know how we'll ever repay you." Marcus nodded, his face calm but tired. "I'm just glad Lily is safe. That's all that matters." A twisty revelation. Just as the crowd began to disperse, the police arrived. Marcus explained everything that had happened, including the kidnapper's escape. The officers promised to investigate and left a search for the man. But the story didn't end there. A few days later, the police returned with startling news. They had caught the kidnapper, and he wasn't a stranger. He was the estranged brother of one of the neighbors, someone who had recently returned to town without anyone knowing. The man had a history of criminal behavior and had planned to ransom Lily for money. The revelation sent shockwaves through the neighborhood. The same people who had been quick to blame Marcus now realized how unfair and wrong they had been. The neighborhood transformed. The Martins were the first to apologize to Marcus. They invited him over for dinner, thanking him repeatedly for saving Lily. Slowly, other neighbors followed suit, bringing him baked goods, helping with his garden, and stopping by to chat. At first, Marcus was cautious. He had spent so long being treated as an outsider that their sudden kindness felt strange. But over time, he saw that their change was genuine. One day, during a neighborhood barbecue, Tom raised a toast. "To Marcus," he said, lifting his glass. "A true hero and a better neighbor than any of us deserved." The crowd cheered, and for the first time, Marcus felt like he truly belonged. The lesson: the neighborhood became a better place. Not just because of Marcus's bravery, but because his actions forced them to confront their own biases. They realized they had judged him unfairly, and they worked to be better people, not just for Marcus, but for everyone. And as for Marcus, he never let bitterness take hold. He continued to live with kindness, showing that love and courage could heal even the deepest wounds. In the end, the little neighborhood, once divided by prejudice, became a place of unity and friendship, all thanks to the quiet, humble man who proved that actions speak louder than appearances.